This is A Line Around Your Thoughts, a podcast that centers on conversations with artists, writers, musicians, and creatives from around the Inland Northwest. I'm your host, EJ Iannelli. For this episode, we are joined in the Rogue Heart Media studio by Scott and Irene Kelly, who are artists in their own right and are also the new stewards of 33 Artists Market. So welcome, Irene, and welcome, Scott.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, I am glad you're here because we get to talk about the new iteration or the evolution of 33 Artists Market. And I'll kind of start out by saying, I talked to Gwen Pavanka in July of last year, and Gwen was the founder and led 33 Artists Market for many years. And I'll just note that for anyone who is interested in kind of the genesis of 33 Artists Market, they can go back and listen to that episode from July of 2025. But what I'm interested in talking about today is this new chapter for 33 Artists Market, and then also kind of delving into some of your own artistic backgrounds as well.
Terrific.
So if I understand correctly, you are relatively recent transplants to Spokane. It's within the past couple of years?
That's right.
Yes, that's correct. We're on our third year here.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And you came from Seattle?
From Seattle.
Okay. And you in Seattle, were you employed by the Seattle Design Center, or was that a previous life?
Oh, no. I was there about 20 years. So after we moved from from Chicago to Seattle, I started within like a year or two at the Seattle Design Center and worked with two different showrooms there, but really enjoyed my time there, working with designers, managing a showroom at one point, being involved in the event planning aspect of it, student career days, hosting some of our vendors and, doing programs, educational things as well, continuing education. But yes, I was there a long time, and I really, I didn't enjoy the commute at all.
Yeah.
That got to be quite a lot, especially at the end where it was almost an hour away because we were out in Sammamish, but just love the energy, as I said, working with the designers, being a part of that environment was just fantastic.
So Seattle was another waypoint. There was Chicago before that, huh?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot
many.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you hail from originally?
So, for me, Ohio, Midwest, Scott.
I'm from Maryland, Baltimore area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
But together, we met while we were both in Ohio, and then moved from the Ohio area to Chicago. Actually,
Dallas,
yeah.
back to Chicago,
Yes.
and then ultimately out to
Yeah,
Seattle.
out to Seattle,
Not
so.
ultimately to Spokane.
Yes.
But yeah,
Oh, excellent.
long stops in between.
And it was family that brought you out here?
Out here,
Oh, just
yes.
Spokane?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
Spokane.
yes.
Yes. Yes, our oldest, Connor, and his wife live here. They both were Gonzaga graduates and then went to Colorado, came back here, and purchased a home and had a lovely little child.
Granddaughter for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so here you moved to Spokane, and you have visions of spending more time with family.
Yes, indeed.
And all of a sudden, you find yourself saying, "Hey, let's take on this
retiring,
artist
right?
market."
Yes.
Yeah.
I can tell you how that went down. So when we started coming out, even before we moved out here, Connor was active with the 33 market. He's an incredible woodworker. Of course, as parents, we're super proud of him, but his work is
pretty phenomenal.
really amazing. And so we started attending the shows, and the energy was amazing around them. Refer back to Gwen's podcast. And Gwen was so approachable, and I think that was what we loved the vibe. So in the meantime, I'm doing my work. We'll talk about that a little bit. Irene's doing her weaving, and she's ready to do a show. And that was the November show just in 2025.
Yes.
And right before it, Gwen announces that this will be her last market, and she's closing down. And we were like, wow, we were both excited to be a part of it.
Yes, indeed.
Connor was disappointed. Yeah. And we pivoted really quickly in saying, it's nice to be retired and not have a lot of responsibility we should take this on. And we, it was a little bit, fly by the seat of your pants, but we approached her within probably 48 hours of
Yeah,
the
I
announcement,
think we
just to understand if we could step in and help. And then we understood why she was leaving it, and it's that was personal and family reasons. And before we knew it, we were moving full steam ahead.
Right.
So
Because
yeah.
it is, I don't want to sugarcoat it. It is a mammoth undertaking. When Gwen was in here, she talked about the responsibility she had, and I don't want to scare you two
Yeah.
off.
Oh, no.
Because I hope you're well aware of what you're getting
I'm very much into it right
Yeah.
now. Yes,
Yeah.
working on, not only in 2 weeks we'll have, our first market at the Women's Club, but very much, working on the Manitou Art Festival coming up. And, today I was going through the jury process where we have 5 jurors. So I'm probably getting ahead of the conversation. But yes, there is quite a bit involved, especially when you're, managing for our, for events for the year. So
Yeah,
So
I think. Go ahead.
Sorry, you're also involved in Art in Manitou as well?
So yeah, we can get into that. I mean, I know you
That's big
have
time.
questions, but I mean, if you'd like me to start to talk about that, I can. But we have 4 markets planned for the year, and they are in, with 2 in the Women's Club, but 2 in really 2 fantastic new locations that we're super excited about.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, we can delve into the locations. I'm sorry, I cut you off, Scott.
I
So-
don't know what I was going to say. Okay. I think the part that it resonated with what Gwen said, that the behind the scenes work on putting the show, because we tend to think of it as like, oh well, you get everybody there and you set the show up and people come, but it is and it's certainly a fear, which is nobody shows. Gwen's gone, we're not going to come. So Irene is doing a yeoman's job of getting everything in place and understanding that it's marketing and it's administration and it's jury to curate the show and it's facility management and so many pieces to it. And because we're really looking not necessarily we really like the experience aspect, connecting with the Spokane community. So we'll talk a little bit about that on the shows and the new locations that we'll be introducing or have introduced. So
what was the handover process like? I'm guessing that Gwen is still accompanying you to some significant extent as you make this transition.
Right. So initially she was, very transparent and, provided, for instance, some documents, here's her 4-month checklist for a market. This is what you need to do, to be up, and I'm super duper organized and task driven. So I thought, this is, very manageable. Oh yeah, no, come on, no problem. Right. and it really, it has been, the transition has been good. And, we've met with Gwen a number of times. She's sitting, because we are now a nonprofit. She is sitting on the board of our nonprofit, in addition to the fact that she's sitting on the jury, for the next couple markets as well, to help us through that process. But yes, it's been a nice transition. There's still some things that need to get worked out and that we're working on, and she absolutely, will be helping through the shows. Being there and helping us get set up and line the floor and everything.
But she's busy too.
Yes.
She's very connected with the Spokane Art School, and
she's
she
teaching
just
now as well.
yeah, and
So,
that was
yeah.
one of the things that. And her husband is in the military, and he will get reassigned, or I don't know exactly how that process works, but that was the catalyst for her saying it's going to come to an end in 6 to 8 months,
Yes,
somewhere
yes, indeed.
and they'd like to get back east.
But she,
So-
she is that side. She is available,
She
to
is.
help. And I, certainly reach
Yep.
out to her and, hey, I need a little help here. So
Yeah.
But it's also, it seems like a good way, if not an accelerated way, to immerse yourselves in the Spokane arts community, because here you're putting on a show where people are approaching you, and artists of all disciplines, a massive variety of artists, both established and up and coming, and they're coming to you and saying, I'd like to be a part of this. So you end up making quite a few connections yourself.
Yes, indeed. And it's
Yeah.
really been, it's like my favorite part because, I'm meeting these incredible artists with wonderful stories. Just such personal stories and experiences. So the artists definitely, I'm really enjoying that.
That's
It's so
right.
funny,
Yeah.
I'm, sort of sitting, having coffee with someone, and one of the artists comes up and are you Irene? And I'm like, oh my goodness,
Rockwood Bakery.
Oh my goodness.
It was like,
Yeah,
goodness
so-
gracious.
But so that, I mean, I'm not sure I'm always comfortable with that. But I mean, being able to then take a few minutes and chat with that artist, I mean, it's just so valuable. And I really appreciate how kind and grateful everyone has been in our conversations. Just to like, we're so happy that you've taken continue.
They didn't
with
want to see it go
because
away.
They didn't want to see it go
Yeah.
away. So I think that's pretty cool. So I'm enjoying that relationship, with the artists and the community too, because I pretty much tell everybody I meet about it. So, getting the dentist this morning, is like.
I think people are, because we converted it to a nonprofit. I think that also resonates with a lot of people who kind of feel like that's how it should be. You shouldn't be making money off of this in a way. I think to a point we talked about earlier, which is, the economy behind it is it's not you're not going to sustain yourself paying a mortgage and, taking care of kids on art markets, not the scale that we have here, nor that we expect to do. But I think what we want to do is be able to invest back into it to grow it. And we'll get to that. Right now, we want to just perpetuate it, sustain what's good about it, and then make it better.
Well,
But,
and that was
yeah.
one of my questions, because I think one of the hallmarks of this transition, or one of the biggest factors in this transition is the fact that it's moving to a nonprofit status. And you've explained some of the rationale behind that, but was there any other motivating factors in the decision to take it into a nonprofit?
I think it was something that we felt was the right thing to do, and I don't want to get we're both retired. We've done well in our careers. We could do it that way, and we didn't necessarily want to take on more tax burden with running it. And I think it just you've got Terrain out here. They're a nonprofit. They've grown tremendously. I think I want to say it allows us to draw focus on what we're doing without the sort of burden of we've got to make money, we've got to make this thing all connect together. We're less worried about that. In fact, the investments while we're tracking our expenses right now, because we will need to report them as a 501c3, it really lets us laser focus on doing the things that we believe are right to keep what's going on, but to expand about it. And we'll talk a little bit about what we think we can do to expand on it. But
And, I think one of the things that I'm really trying to work toward, and I've started to a little bit, is to really have conversations with other nonprofits. I've, gone over to Spark Central and, had a conversation with Posey there, and I'm hoping that we can partner in different ways. They'll, at this Manitou festival, we will in fact have, a booth for them. I would love to, as a nonprofit also, and, we're just so new at this point, in the stage of establishing this, business of 33 Artist Market as a nonprofit that, trying to go ahead and get grants, not only for helping us to perhaps have, children's areas at markets or different things like that, but to offer scholarships. And, it's just right now, there's just so much to explore.
Yeah.
I mean, because we want it to benefit children, people, with disabilities, those with special needs, those who may financially not be able to support their art. I mean, that's really what, bringing it to a nonprofit in my mind is about, because we want to be able to give back to the artists, to the community, to be there and to partner with other, organizations like that too, to really make it, a good experience for an artist and for the community.
Yeah, and nonprofits are known for being more mission driven, or putting mission above profit. And so, there it is in name alone.
Yeah.
So it does maybe just incline you to lean more towards mission, or to focus more on the mission of the market rather than other factors.
well said.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you've already made reference, and so have you, Irene. You've made reference to some of the things that you're hoping to do, or some of the other areas that you'd like to explore. If you could maybe walk me through some of the things some of the the aspects that you see as part of 33 Artists' evolution for, in the future?
I would say, so when we started, and I guess we went to the Pergola one, but it was always Women's Club or the Wonder
Building, the Hive,
Wonder
and the
Building,
Hive.
and the Hive too.
Yeah.
And I personally, I like the Wonder Building. I won't lie about that one, but we can't go there anymore. I think that there's an opportunity in the right ratio to add an entertainment factor to it. And it's about place. It's about recognizing the city of Spokane, the different locations that we could do it. And we really like the idea of evolving that further. So Women's Club we're there. We'd already made a commitment, and we'll do that one in March. And there's a very nice neighborhood feel to that,
absolutely.
In that old building. The next one is we have secured the Manitou Art Festival, and that was well respected, and I think a place that people are really excited to come back to. They stopped doing it. There was lots of problems behind it, and we came in. Irene volunteers for the Friends of Manitou, so she had some connections, and we just kind of went in there with a plan. It was actually kind of funny because we met before the board of the Friends, and we felt like we had to persuade them that they didn't want to take on something extra. So we kind of laid it out. We've got all these plans and everything. And there was a person from the city of Spokane, or the county, I don't know who that person was.
I think Sharon, who is the president, said, well, what is it exactly that you want us
to
do?
Right.
And we're like, nothing.
Well, it was, who was the person that, she said, no offense to the Friends of Manitou, but you don't need their approval. You need mine. And we like what you've got here. And it was kind of a neat, a moment of like, oh, I guess we were overselling, but I guess we convinced them that we had this in hand. So we're really excited about that. That's the one in June.
And while we're hosting it, we're organizing, but, we are grateful for, the Friends of Manitou support, because they're just lovely. Yep. The office manager, there was too much information probably, but there was a volunteer brunch yesterday morning, so I'm chatting with everybody there. And, the office manager has provided like the site plan from the last one.
Right.
And the vendor list, and, just some organizational things. And those, especially a site plan, my goodness, that is so valuable, because, you're thinking of laying out in a park and all these booths.
Yeah. And here's another example where the nonprofit kicks in. So we're giving them, as a nonprofit to a nonprofit, a fairly significant percentage of the revenue that is generated from the booth sales. Right. And that's the only money that comes in. It's
from the booth sales,
from people renting booth space, if you want to call it renting.
And we'd like to do that for every market.
Yeah.
We're looking at doing that for the
September market. You can build these deeper connections with the other companies around here, companies being other nonprofits, and they respond very well to, it makes it easy to work together. So that's an example. So then there's a manager. Then the next one is Uprise Brewery in Kendall Yards. So they had, we have a little inside scoop there because our son Connor's the brewer there. So we actually didn't lean on that. We went to the two owners and convinced them that it would be great for people coming out to their brewery, and they have a great location, lots of outside area, and a very quiet road. So they're going to shut down the road. And we're going to do, how many booths are we going to do there? It's not huge.
No, so they also have done that plan. And so we will have 30,
35?
Well, there are 34, but I think we might use one for our own marketing materials. But anyways, 33.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah, 33.
But again, so we're not, now they're a restaurant. They're obviously a brewery. So people, they have to keep the beer within the confines of the facility, but I think there'll be lots of wandering around.
Yeah.
And so it's it's an experience kind of thing. Now, one of the pieces of advice Gwen gave us that was really important is she's like, we were like, I thought it would be great to have a band, right? And she's like, just be careful because it can get so loud. You can't talk to the artists. And we don't want to detract from it where people are just like, I'm going to come out and drink some beer and. And we
want the focus to be the artist.
Right.
And I spoke with one of the artists and, she was like, well, at the Manitou Fair, like a couple years ago, I was right next to the stage. And she said, I hardly sold anything because people were, I couldn't have a conversation with, a community member because it was so loud.
Yeah.
So we're pulling back on that.
Who
for
does
sure.
the Mac show? Because that's really nice, and they have live music. I think
Well,
it's
the music also is down.
Oh, in the amphitheater, right? Yeah,
amphitheater,
you're
so
right.
it's definitely quieter. But at the women's club, we have had, and we will have again the DJ, and we will have one at Manitoba Park too. So it will be controlled music, but we'll have food trucks. We will have a youth artist area, so cool. But not a lot of artists, but we will have some. And then working with Spark Central, also the art school, for bringing in a hands-on children's play area where they can be creative. And so that's it's one of my goals, I think. And in every market we can do that, but we're limited in some because we just don't have the space.
And so among all these changes, if you reflect on it honestly, is there anything that you think will come as a shock to anyone who is familiar with 33 Artists Market and knows it and likes it? Is there anything about these near future 33 Artists Market that somebody would walk into and say, I don't recognize this? It seems like a lot of the core is still going to be there.
I feel like the model is there. I mean, I feel like, Gwen has done a really good job, sort of laying out, what she has done. And of course, we've been to a lot of the markets, not as artists, but as, as part of a community, and actually patrons coming from Seattle to do those as well. So I don't think
it's a
so.
Great question.
Yeah.
I think we're cognizant of it. We don't want it to become, hoity in the sense that it's not approachable. What we loved about is the comfortableness that Gwen had created, starting right with her welcoming sense of anybody that came in, she was willing to stop and talk to. And Irene's very good at that as well. So I think that's really important, to keep that DNA in what we do. But I think we feel that we can keep that and broaden the experience kind of thing and connect more neighborhoods together. Because for example, the Women's Club, Gwen noted that a lot of people walk to it. It's really close by. In fact, the parking's not great. So, the idea of connecting different areas in Spokane and identifying new ones that we can do, I think, would be part of the experience that will be, we hope, well received.
Cool. Well, I can almost certainly say that here on North Monroe, they would welcome at least one event. So when you're scouting locations,
keep it in
this
mind.
Yes,
We've
had, emails of different venues approach us already, and so I've actually been surprised by some of them.
Can you say that?
I don't know.
You won't keep it quiet on one of them.
But keep that on the DL.
Kind of a neat place.
I like that element of surprise.
I love it out here, and when we first moved here, we came out to a lot of the antique stores and the shops around here, and I hadn't paid as much attention to it. Now we're actually considering moving, but who knows what we're going to do. We're always talking about stuff.
We're not supposed to say that out loud.
Okay, edit that out. But I was like, man, I love the feel of this neighborhood. Just so many approachable shops, because stopped in Indaba.
Yes,
anyway.
no, for sure.
So we've got this event coming up March 28th. That's a dead cert.
There it is. Yes,
we've got a beautiful poster for it. What are the dates beyond that? Do you have those locked in?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And
I didn't know if some of it was still TBD.
No. The June Manitoba Market is June 13th.
Okay.
And that, our applications, we've closed applications already. So we will, in the next couple of weeks, really, and, I talk to people about this because it's we have these applications, but we don't have that many spots. So it's such a responsibility that I know, I don't, and I know the other jurors don't take lightly. It really is, you're dealing with someone's passion.
This is the selection process, the curating.
It's tough. It really is. We have a rubric that we follow, and we will individually review each of those applicants in reviewing, really reading their statements and their images and
And the blend of different styles of
absolutely.
art, trying to keep that in balance.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I was trying to make a spreadsheet today and, have the categories so that we can, have a nice balance, so where it's not all, ceramic artists or, I mean,
paintings.
there has to be
Yeah.
a nice balance of it, and that's what makes the the market successful. But yeah, and, just that responsibility and how seriously we take it and really, curating it so that we do have a nice balance and, and not only established artists, but really looking at emerging artists as well.
And I know that, as we were kind of preparing for this interview, I had asked you if there were any artists that you're particularly excited about. And I know it's hard to play favorites because...
Yes. So I do. I mean, I did write down some things, and I know you said for this coming market, here at the Women's Club.
Yeah, just to get an idea of who's going to be there. I mean, I saw like an Instagram list go out, and it was a long list and a lot of names that I recognized, a lot of names that weren't quite on my radar.
Yeah.
And it seemed to be a pretty wide variety.
Yes, and I think that's what makes it so great. So, yes, so there are 36 artists, and as I mentioned, established artists and those that are emerging. Oh my goodness, I just got a buzz on my wrist. So just to sort of give you an idea, and it was definitely when you asked me to do that, I thought, oh yeah, no, I can't do that. But I would encourage any listeners, and I put it on the website or on the Instagram today too. Please go to the website because there are a full list of artists. Right under the artist category, you can see every artist that will be participating, and I don't want to leave anyone out, and that's why it was sort of hard for me to do this. But I did want to sort of make note of some of the different type of art that we will have. For instance, in the ceramics category, there is a Talco pottery. And so she is a Japanese artist that sort of combines her Japanese roots with Western art in the ceramics field, as far as size and just the style of it. So, she's been at many of our markets. There's casting glass stone. You've probably, seen Ebby before. And, she takes different types of glass and will bring them together for just an incredibly beautiful piece of art. She also teaches. So that's pretty cool. I have to mention Connor Kelly woodturning.
I was going to say, is Connor going to be there?
Well, yeah, he is actually. He won't be at the June one, but he will be. And, he specializes in the revival of these ancient vessels and drinking vessels. And, I mean, it's just really...
In wood.
In wood. I mean, he's taken his art to a different level where it truly is a piece. I mean, it is a piece of art. It's not something that you're going to use, but... I mean, they really are beautiful. He sort of talks about antiquity and modernism, and he talking too much about our son, but he does have a show at Lewis and Clark right now too. So,
okay.
Anyways, silver element jewelry, exquisite pieces that are just so detailed, but then you have more whimsical or modern, like Zomi jewelry. So that's different. For printmaking, we have Meg Art, which very vibrant and colorful. If you're familiar with her work,
I'm very familiar with it. In fact, Meg is going to be next week's episode.
Oh, no way!
Yeah,
awesome.
She and Ronaldo
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I just really like her too. So.
Yeah.
But her work is pretty amazing. I have one of her prints on my wall. Yes, let's see who else. Let's see for watercolor painting, Linnea Tobias, a very familiar
who
name
has
in the
been
community.
a fixture of these markets. I think Gwen mentioned her as kind of one of the OGs with 33 artists.
Yeah, she wasn't at the last one, but she will be here.
Yeah, and you can't make every single one.
I know.
But
you have to allow space for other people. Gloria Fox, watercolor, just beautiful, subtle pieces. We have fiber. There's Dan Street who does, and I've talked to him because, of course, I make bags, so I was very intrigued by him. And, he takes the leather and he hand sews. He doesn't use a machine. He's hand sewing these bags, and they're incredible.
Amazing.
He's an older gentleman.
Yeah.
Owl Song Feltry, a felting artist who is doing succulents and mushrooms, so they're super fun. I'm turning my page. Okay. And not leaving out some of the emerging artists like Abstract Jackie and Ellery Young, who showed at the art school, and they're both painting. Sarah Peterson Jewelry. We've got Flourish Botanicals and Northside Candles, so just a real mix of things. And then, of course, I have to mention Party Krill, because this is the designer of our poster here, and I have gotten so much positive feedback
Great.
and compliments
Great
on
poster.
that poster. So,
Yeah.
and I apologize for the artists that I've left off, not because I don't love your work, but just trying to.
Well, the fact that they were even juried or selected into the market is, sign of your approval.
Well,
Yeah.
we had 86 applicants for that market, and we had to narrow it down to 36. So that was, it's difficult to do, and
And a lot of good artists.
oh, absolutely.
And do you give any feedback? When I know one of the hardest things about getting a rejection letter is when it just comes without context. And so you I think there's always a question like, did I do something wrong? Is there something that I could have done better?
So yes, when I was sending those out, I mean, I really I tried. I tried to look at each of the applications and find some kind of good feedback. I love this piece. This is perhaps more of the direction. I didn't even say that, but just that I complimenting them on this was fantastic. Keep up the good work. Make sure because I knew we were looking at Manitou, and I knew we were going to be able to accept close to 100 artists. Make sure you apply. I want to see you apply again. Make sure So try to just because I know if I were in that position, I'd be like, dang. Right?
I think that's a role we see ourselves, and I can talk more on that in a minute. But helping artists understand how better to market. You got to find the fine line of feedback before. But I think that when we see some present their work, it's beautifully photographed. It's very well thought out in their presentation. Their statements are good. And then others comes in. They haven't done a booth before. It's hard to figure out how to show that. And I think that as sort of veterans, not of running art shows, but appreciating them, working in the industry, we have a sense of how to present oneself. And I think that is an area that we can broaden the offering of 33 artist market and help these artists, because it's a tough way to go.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
And especially, that mentorship is really helpful, and that guidance, because so often, as many tutorials as there are, as many YouTube videos, and now you could probably ask ChatGPT for some advice, but I don't think anything really beats getting that advice from another person and that guidance saying, here's how you could polish this in order to be more competitive, or make your stuff just a little more competitive.
One, marketing their art is just really difficult, and a lot of them don't want to be bothered with that. That's not what I'm about. It's about being in my studio and creating and being spontaneous, and that's what I want to do. Now somebody else help me sell that, and that's a primary function of art shows, right? We bring together artists and patrons, and we take that responsibility pretty heavy. But I think there's more we can do, and we're kind of, I think that's an evolution thing that you'll see from the market, or they'll see.
So we've talked. You have just given us a string of other artists, including your son Connor. But you, as I mentioned at the outset, you both are artists in your own right. And so Irene, you have Joie de Weave, which is weaving, and the work that I saw presented was mostly handbags.
That's correct.
So I don't know if you venture outside of that, or if you largely stick with handbags. But talk to me about your weaving, how you came into it.
Yeah, so textiles have been part of my life since I was a very young person, with my mom and sewing, and through high school, it was more fashion and creation and, designing a jacket and, doing all the fine tailoring and everything. So I've always been passionate about that sort of, maybe on the nerdy side even, but, as my career's gone on, I did some crazy things like I worked for a law firm and was, in the financial department. I mean, stuff that was totally not even me, but,
Sports management.
sports management.
Well, life has strange twists and turns. Yeah.
But you sometimes come back to what your passion is. And that's really, what happened for me. When the kids were young, I stopped working and I started my own drapery business. So I had a drapery workroom. So I, had these industrial machines and long tables that Scott built, that monstrous table at the time. But, that, and then we moved out here to Seattle.
Yep.
And, the business that I had developed in Chicago just didn't transition as easily. And, you don't have that base. So that's when I started working at the design center. However, you're still working with textiles and furniture and design and, designers. But, retiring right before we moved, and the showroom was sold, going through some transition. So the timing was perfect. But there was a lovely designer who's a weaver. And, like so many industries, I mean, it is so rich in knowledge and people who are so willing to share all of it. So she was amazing and helped me figure out what type of a loom do I get. And so I finally found, after like 4 months of searching, find one on Facebook Marketplace, put it in my car, haul it out here. It's, it's a floor loom, so it takes some construction and assembly and stuff. But I just wanted to explore a different type, of creating a textile. So I started weaving, took some classes at, oh my goodness, what's the name of that yarn shop? I took like a series of 4 classes, the Hook and Needle Nook. And they were on Monroe. They moved, I think, further down. But, again, lovely communities, became part of the Spokane Weavers Guild. I threaded my loom incorrectly one time, and I called a lovely woman from the guild and, send me a picture. Okay, I sent her a picture, and, we got on the phone. She walked me through it and solved it. So that said, I started weaving, and a lot more math involved than you would think, for sure.
Amazing.
But really enjoyed it. But, I just felt like, all right, I'm how many scarves and, this type of thing am I going to make? Yeah, and I've always really liked sewing. So I thought, okay, I'm going to start cutting, these warps that I take off into pieces. And yes, I am making bags. So I'm sort of taking, this, love with textiles and my love for sewing. And then I have wonderful connections at the Seattle Design Center still. So they're saving lovely fabrics.
The interiors of her bags are always unique.
They're, I don't know, like $300 a yard fabrics that are, discontinued wings that are hanging in a 3-yard run. And so I take those and I cut them up. And so it's such a creative process, and it's so fun because, once I have all those pieces, I'm figuring, okay, here's my woven panel. Now I need my beautiful lining. Then I need to figure out what kind of wax canvas or, what I'm going to use on the outside, and what, the webbing is going to be in the zipper. And so it's just a load of fun.
And why handbags specifically? Was that the object that allowed you to combine all these different?
So yeah, I think that was it, really. I mean, I think honestly, I can tell you, it was at a 33 artist market, and Haight was there. Lovely, I'm going to space out on her name, but Shannon, anyways, she had taken flannels, reclaimed, yes, I mean, belts, everything.
From thrift shops, you would buy wool coats from 1960, and you were like, oh boy, that'd be a lot of coat, but on a handbag?
Oh, and so I saw her work, and I just thought, wow, I think I could do this. So she inspired me. Like so many artists inspire one another, it's like, yeah.
Oh, no kidding. So but just yet another connection that you have to 33 Artist Market.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
And then Scott, you are a painter. I noticed there's also some pencil drawing as well that you've done. I noticed that you had recently done a new series called Everything We Love.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of speaking for you and Irene personally, because these are objects, or in one case your home or your car that you've rendered on the canvas.
Yeah. So, I am like Irene. My mom, I have a longer story on this, and I don't want to get it too long, but I was thinking about it. I think that the wonderful thing with children, we have a granddaughter that comes over, and the first thing that we do is we lay out crayons and colored pencils and papers, and this, children love to create. And so I'm really caught up. And it's part of the reason why we're going to have a children's area, and we're going to amplify that over a few shows. This idea that we can be lifetime artists, and somewhere along the line, either people, they start to doubt themselves, I'm not good enough, and they kind of lose that thing that we have as children. My mom was an artist. She started me, when I was young, and taught me the basics of oil painting and watercolors, and I would just draw on my own, a lot of times just doing it alone just because that's what I like to do. And I would, copy, Warner Brother cartoons, Bugs Bunny, and all sorts of things. And I did that all the way through. You mentioned being a little nerdy. I always kept it sort of to myself. But ultimately, by the time I got to college, I started off as a fine arts major at the University of Maryland. And after a year, and it was just the start of computer graphics coming along, I moved into, and the University of Maryland had separated out from the fine arts program to their marketing communications college. And I moved into that, and I was fascinated not only with the start of desktop publishing and Quark Express, for those that know old programs that are no longer around. I liked graphic design more than I liked the fine arts, or that I felt I would be successful with. And so that kind of evolved. I ended up getting a job on campus and in the graphic department at Maryland. The director that I worked for moved to Ohio State. He said, "Call me up when you graduate." I moved out there. I had the fortune of they wanted to start a four-color magazine. Four-color being a full, And so I got to do that at 23, 24 years old, put it together. We worked a lot with the Department of Natural Resources. So it was this beautiful magazine with this incredible photography of Ohio countryside and farms and animals. It was connected to, it was a land-grant university, which is what Washington State is. And so I got a feel for that. We had the opportunity to move to Chicago. This is longer than I wanted to go, but I'll share a few more things. We met. I moved to Ohio State. We met. Irene had the opportunity to move to Chicago. I followed her, and I think what I'm trying to get at is that you can pursue your passions in art, and they can also be successful in business. And that's kind of what my career has done. I've worked in these crazy things that I would have never imagined. When we moved out to Chicago, I landed a job, just lucky, because they were looking to hire somebody cheap, at Inside Sports Magazine, which was started by Newsweek to compete with Sports Illustrated. I loved sports. I got to work on a magazine. I was the art director. I felt like I was something else. And that led to the craziest thing. I think of you like hearing this and saying, "Oh, I think that's a good idea." In the late 80s, baseball cards went crazy. So so many people collected when they were kids, and what happened is they, put a rubber band around, they put them in their spokes. All the cards, basically got worn out because people played with them. And suddenly people were recognizing the value of baseball cards and ultimately other sports were outperforming the stock market. And the card industry went crazy, started by a company out in California called Upper Deck, where they were like, okay, instead of printing them on cheap cardboard, we'll put them on really fine paper. And so I got hired because I had the sports and graphics by a company in Chicago that had an old brand called Donruss, and that's neither here nor there, but we were taking it, and it was incredibly creative. It was one of the most creative times of my life. And I was doing baseball cards, except we were now doing them with leather, and we were putting pieces of game-used material in it. We printed on wood. Yeah. We got acquired because it was with a confections company.
By Tops eventually, wasn't it?
Well, it ultimately melded into Tops, but in this case, it was Pinnacle. Because what happened is it's a collectibles industry, and suddenly there's like these 5 companies producing so much, and the value of the collectibles fell off.
Yeah, so it's we've got Tops, Fleer, Donruss, Upper
Oh my
Deck,
gosh, you were a
and
collector.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
So Pinnacle was the company that acquired it. They were in Dallas. They were a flash in the pan. They were Score and Pinnacle. That we got acquired. I was young, barely 30 years old. I negotiated. I want to be a vice president. I'm moving down to Dallas. I'm moving my family, and they gave it to me. And we were like, yeah, we were like living the high life. I mean, it was amazing. They were paying a lot more than we ever imagined, and got into that business. Well, it collapsed. Ultimately, it collapsed. Longer story is I got hired by Wizards of the Coast out in Seattle. And Wizards of the Coast is a huge gaming company. People who are lifestyle gamers, those people who recognize or will identify as I play games and it's one of my passions. Wizards has Magic the Gathering, published in 11 languages, and then Dungeons and Dragons. It's all very art-based, and I was the VP of creative and operations, so it was a fairly lofty position. We got acquired by Hasbro, the big toy and game company.
Everything's been acquired by Hasbro.
Hasbro is,
until all are one. Yes.
they have, here's why. Transformers, Magic the Gathering, there was story behind there, and what they recognize is they made Transform plastic toys, but they were like, if we can tell the story of Transformers and even tell it on the big screen, it will push toy sales. And that's what they did really well. That was their sort of Midas touch on these brands. So they acquired us and then morphed it into more of a digital business, because the games at that point were, you and I would sit across and we'd play cards together, and we'd play Magic. And Magic is a turn-based card game at its roots. Very intelligent. Some people say it's like chess times 14,000 pieces, because you can play from the year it was created, which was back in 1994, all the way to cards that are made today. Anyway, the point being is that during this time, I've learned a lot about, one, running businesses, leading teams, leading art as a key essential ingredient. And I think when I talked about we can help that from a marketing standpoint for people here, I want to perpetuate. Art can be something terrific, and it's something that you can actually do and have an incredible, make a living out of it. That's what you aspire to do. And I think that's what excites me most. One, finding a place for kids to feel like their art is valued, and being able to show it at our shows, I think, is really, really important. And then helping, as I mentioned before, artists being better at sort of selling themselves. So, yeah.
Well, at what time did you reconnect with your inner fine artist?
Well,
because you've talked about this, what seems like a long digital detour.
Yeah. And the digital detour hasn't, because I work as a digital artist. Now, a lot of people are like, digital artist, it's not as legit as those that are placing brush to canvas. And in some ways I can't argue. For me, I travel a lot in my current business. And so, sorry, the ability to go anywhere. I can go in a hotel room. I can go on an airplane. I can create wherever I want. And I'm less interested, I'm in my 60s, of like, I don't know where this is going to go. I do it because I really, really enjoy it. And the whole idea of everything we love was, I started down the path of, I like doing commissions. I like doing people. But I thought, if I'm doing that in art shows, I don't know if I'll get any attention. People are sort of like, well, I'm not buying this. I'm buying something that you might want to do. So then I kind of have just opened up, and I'm working on a landscape now, but I work digitally. And so everything has to be printed. I'm very careful about that whole process. A lot of people question, well, does AI play a part into it? And I think AI is a really interesting manifestation that will creep into our lives in everything, including art. I don't use it other than to increase the resolution of a starting picture if I need to, if I want to go larger than that. But I think that it will impact the art world, is impacting the art world. We don't necessarily know what's original anymore and what we're looking at. And, I think that genie's out of the bottle. I think there'll be no fighting. I think, though, that ultimately it'll be good for helping people in process, but originality will prevail. And we sort of have this sense when we're looking at something that's not real. It's mostly in photography and the scenes that we see, things with our president and all that sort of thing.
Well, I've noticed with some of your work, and maybe this is intentional. So what keeps it from being realist or hyper-realist is there are these almost deliberate pixelated imperfections that appear.
Yeah.
And so is that sort of a meta commentary on the digital and the fine arts?
I think it's the program I use. It's called Art Rage. It's not well known. The tools are very... The icon that comes up is a brush. I can control the heaviness of the paint that I apply. I can control saturation, what goes over to create a layering effect. It's an incredibly flexible tool, and it feels like I'm painting without having to clean brushes, wipe my hand through wet paint. There's a part of it that I really, really like. And I think that I'm starting to create a little bit of a look without necessarily saying that that's what I'm trying to accomplish. And that just continues to evolve.
I see. It's interesting because...
Sorry. I can feel that coming along.
It's interesting because, when you talk now about painting and pencil, I immediately assumed that these were the actual physical objects, but these are the pencil renderings and paint renderings via a digital.
All digital.
Oh, wow.
All on a
No
screen.
kidding.
Yep.
No kidding. Cool.
Yeah.
I feel like that is a good point to kind of wrap things up and then maybe transition into what you may have been dreading this entire time, which is the lightning round. So, as you know,
He has to go first.
No. I need a break.
I thought you would have drawn straws in the car on the way over.
Good idea, though.
You will know that the first question is always an either or. All right.
Okay.
I think it's pretty straightforward.
All right.
And you'll both get the same one. Okay. Clowns or magicians?
Oh,
I know your answer.
magicians.
You're going to go for magicians.
Yes.
Okay. Why magicians over clowns?
Oh, I don't know. Clowns are a little scary.
They can be. Yeah.
They can be. And I think, it's a little more interesting to have a magic trick performed in front of you and maybe to sort of, how did you do that? Or, that's always the question, but more thoughtful.
Okay. Scott, you're
Yeah,
up.
same. Clowns are funny and they, associated with joy, and kids may like them better than magicians, but a magician it's a practice study of mystery.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, when you started talking about Magic the Gathering, I thought I have a feeling I know where you're going to
Yeah,
land,
yeah.
but I'll still give you the choice
I think
regardless.
you asked a wizard's question in one of yours.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they might have
Yeah.
come up. They might have come up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This should be a fairly easy one.
Okay.
Although I know you're probably spoiled for choice. What's your favorite restaurant in town?
Ooh, that's
Oh,
interesting.
boy. Gosh, well, I know ones that we go to frequently. What are you going to say?
I'm contemplating because what was that? The Italian Kitchen. I really love that place.
Yeah, I like that too.
We went there for Irene's birthday, but we are creatures of habit, and so we go to Republic Pie. We think is the best pizza in town. Yeah.
And you're going to say Republic
Yeah.
Pie. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm going to say the Italian Kitchen, I think.
No.
Okay.
Good.
Cool. Yeah. You each get one.
Yes.
You have joint favorite places. You can each take one. All right. We're going to move into music now. What song makes you feel the most nostalgic?
Oh, wow. If you want to go ahead, go ahead.
Yes,
Is
Scott.
it
If
you
you
or
have one,
probably
if
you?
you have one at the ready.
I love
Yeah.
music, and I think the one, and our kids still make fun of it.
Yeah.
I have to name the exact song. We love the Pretenders. We used to listen to it when we were listening to their albums when we were young, and the kids would always be like, "Oh, that's steak music." And what they meant was when they were 3 or 4 years old, maybe a little bit older than that, we would try to get them to bed at 8:30 or something, and we stay up and
have a late dinner.
have a bottle of wine and a good
Grill a
dinner,
steak.
yeah, and often a
Always have
steak,
butter.
and they called it steak
Oh my
music,
gosh,
and
and
it
they-
was the Pretenders.
And it's funny because they joke about it now even, and
Yeah.
we still play that music. So when they're at our house, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, here, and they know all the songs. I mean, they can sing along too because it's been such a part
Yeah,
of their
now
life.
I've only identified a band. Stop Your Sobbing was one that I know that they would recognize
Pretenders,
instantly.
yeah.
Mystery Achievement is another great song, but yeah.
So is this a joint answer then?
Oh,
It's
no.
going to be jointly the Pretenders?
You should be
I know.
think of your favorite album when you listen. I know what it is.
What do you think my favorite?
Oh, this is like a
Carole
version
King
of the...
Tapestry.
Yeah, you know what? I was thinking of Carole King,
Yeah.
and I was actually, I was
We're aging
doing one
ourselves.
of her. I know I was singing one of her songs in my head today. Tracy Chapman. I mean, gosh, yeah, yes. We've been around a long time.
Okay, so Pretenders and Carole King. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a nice mix. Those are good albums or artists to have in your album collection.
Yeah.
All right, we're at the end. We're on the fourth question. Who were the 3 people, alive or dead, at your ideal dinner party?
Oh, that's a really
So,
good.
and
I
are they
suspect
people
one
that-
of yours is going to be Diane Keaton.
So, are we talking about famous people or just
Anybody you like.
anybody I like? Okay.
Yeah. This is open
Oh gosh.
to the entire span of human history.
But can it be more?
I'm limiting you to 3. Our table is only so big.
Oh boy. Well, I'm not going celebrity though. There are people in my past that I miss. So, yeah. Oh gosh. I think I know what I'm going to say, but it could be a little emotional for me. Do you have someone already?
Well, I have to have 3.
Yeah. Well, I know.
So I'm,
Are you
I'm,
okay?
I'm
All
categorizing.
right. So I'm gonna, and I would say, I mean, it's for me, it's going to be family, and I have 3 family members that are no longer with us. I have a brother who would just be about 60 now, and then my parents, and they are gone, and I'd love to see them again. I'd love
So
to
it'd be
have
like a family
conversation.
reunion.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know, and I'd love to have a conversation with them because. I mean, they've been all gone long enough that things have changed, and that would be lovely.
I think that says a lot. I hadn't expected the answer to be this revealing, but when we imagine the constellation of folks that we might choose, and you have people like, ancient philosophers or musicians or things like that. It's like, no, I'm gonna keep it close to
Scott will
home.
tell you,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, everything is about family. My kids, and our lovely little granddaughter, and so yeah, I'm super focused on family. I really love our kids, love my extended family. Going for a family reunion in June, so
Yeah.
Well, there we go. So here the lightning round, reveals
well,
our
yeah,
inner
It,
selves.
gosh,
it gave me a pause, a moment of reflection.
yeah.
So for me, I think, I went more into people that I admire, that, I would love to have a chance. So I think Bob Dylan would be on my list. I love his music, and I just love what he says, and it'd be a fascinating conversation in which I'd probably be incredibly intimidated. There's lots of artists I like, and it's easy to, there's so many that would be fascinating to know. I think Van Gogh was a little bit crazy, but his work so moving to so many people. So I think that would be an interesting one. This is a weird one that'll surprise you because I had a difficult relationship with him, but my dad died at 59, and for all my issues with him growing up as a teenager, and because he died really young, I never got to know him as a man. We were kind of estranged, not entirely, but just not spending time together. And I'd like to, see what he was thinking and what he went through. that put him in such a place that he was who he was.
Yeah.
And
well,
I would that would be an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah.
And I think about that it from my mom too. But
yeah.
Yeah, that would be super
Yep.
interesting. So you've got, the family side is there as well, but then, Bob Dylan and
Yeah.
Van Gogh could offer some strange commentary.
Yeah.
And I think your dad and you could, definitely engage with those folks in conversation.
Yeah, he was a
it would be
writer, so he was very good at talking.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a great questions.
Well, Irene and Scott,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming in
Oh my
today.
gosh, it was fun.
And I hope it was.
As nervous as I was.
I hope it was smoother than you hoped.
Absolutely.
And
Because
this
you're
is
wonderful. It was so, I don't know, very calming and just
Agree.
lovely questions. I mean, you're great. So really enjoy
Yeah.
it.
well. Thank you, and I'm excited for what lies ahead with 33 artists, and I think a lot of folks are going to be really psyched that it will continue. But it sounds like you've got a really strong plan for the future.
We do, and we're super excited
Thank you.
as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Really fun.